Okay, so my name is Dr. Yvonka DeRitter, and I just go by Dr. Yvonka. I try to keep it simple because my whole name is quite complicating. So this will be pretty casual. I want to keep it kind of open forum, so if you have any questions or comments, just kind of raise your hand or signal me, and I think that we learn a lot more with interactions. So it's kind of how I want to go. It's not too structured. Like I said, we have this article out here. If each of you can grab one, and then this is a worksheet that you could take home, and I'll explain it a little bit at the end. Hi guys. Thanks for coming. If you want to sign in, that'd be great. And I'll explain it at the end, but if each of you grab one and take it home, you'll be doing it at home. It won't be in here and you won't have to share it. It's just for you. So, like I said, my name is Dr. Yvonka. If I'm grabbing a tissue sniffling, don't mind me. I'm fighting off a cold. So I am a clinical sexologist, and I have a PhD in sexology and a master's in marriage and family therapy. So I work a lot with couples. I have a private practice in downtown Tampa, which is Loving Life Therapy. You can find online. And you can also visit my website at dryvonka.com, where you can submit any questions or comments or have a private conversation with me at any point as well. And I'm happy to help. That's what I'm here for. So social media, again, everything is Dr. Yvonka. It's Instagram, Facebook, all of that. I don't even keep up with them all. There's so many of them. Okay, so I wanted to start, and also you can find a lot of blogs. So I try to publish a blog at least bi-weekly or monthly on a variety of topics. So there's a lot to learn. And okay, so tonight's is about intimacy, which comes in many, many different forms. So to start off, I kind of want to get an idea of what you guys think intimacy is. So if you want to just shout out a bunch of words and adjectives, that'll help.
Communication.
Okay, perfect. If you can read my handwriting, awesome. I most of the time can't, so just let me know if you can. So we have communication. Did someone say communication? Okay. What else? Touch, perfect.
Like a mental connection.
Absolutely.
Listening.
Yes. Oh man, it's been a long day. I'm surprised I can still spell.
What about chemistry?
Chemistry, yes, absolutely. Comes in many different forms. Those are all great. So intimacy too, I mean, something to keep in mind, it's not just something you share with another person. It's something you share within yourself, most importantly. And before you can have it with another person holistically and on a deep level, you really need to be able to have it with yourself. And that requires vulnerability, which is a very difficult thing for most people to come to terms with. We're taught to kind of shut ourselves down and to oppress things, and that just becomes problematic on so many different levels. So you really want to figure out how to gain that intimacy with yourself. So we'll get into that a little bit more as well. One of the important things too, we don't want to forget, obviously, intimacy is sex, it's physical. So basically physical, emotional, which is pretty much all of these we just touched on. And also spiritual. So that's a whole lot of information, and we won't be able to go into too much detail about all of it tonight, but we're hoping to do this regularly so that we can kind of teach as much as we can and remove some of the stigmas about sexuality out there, oppressing everything for us. So let's see. Reading my own handwriting, always a problem. Oh. Okay, so what I wanted to do is go over, let me find my little erase here. So now we kind of have a basic idea of what intimacy is. Let's go into it a little bit more in depth. So I have the 5 intimacy commandments. So one is know thyself. I tried to be clever with this. So that's the most important one, I think. And that's where it all needs to start. So you really just need to know yourself. And that's an emotional, mental, physical, a variety of different levels. So this includes things like masturbation, making sure you know your body. So masturbation, knowing your body, exploring your body. Exploring your beliefs. Well, very rarely do we stop, in our lifespan and we just go, what do I still believe in? What do I enjoy? We kind of just absorb the things that we're surrounded by, our parents, our teachers, our friends, and we just adopt some of these belief systems and things and without ever exploring and saying, is this actually something that I enjoy? Is this actually something that matters to me? So that's very, very important to do. And that's definitely a really good starting point. So experimenting, I like these words. I'll go to them quite frequently. So experimenting with yourself as well, trying a variety of different things. The other thing to keep in mind, so tonight, let me back up a little bit. Tonight we're going to touch a lot more on the physical aspect of intimacy, and we'll kind of throw in a little bit of the emotional, mental, but that will be sort of the primary focus. So one important thing to keep in mind is you are in charge of your own pleasure. Very often we put that responsibility on our partner or the other person. We want them to turn us on. We want them to do all this work to get us to this point. And really what I tell couples is you are in charge of that yourself. And the rest is just a bonus. So being focused, and that spins into a variety of different things, but being focused on what works for you and making sure you're communicating that, and working with your partner in terms of making sure that they're understanding what you're saying as well. And communication is before, during, and after physical intimacy, not just one conversation at the beginning of a relationship and they should just know what works from that point on. And that changes too, because just when you think you know, you don't. It shifts and it changes, especially with women, right? Our bodies change. And what we like one moment shifts to the next. So the second one, do you guys have any questions or comments on that one? No? Okay. I just got really hot in here. Is it just me or is it everybody else? No? I'm like, my cheeks, I'm like, what is happening? Or it could be this cold I'm fighting. Okay. So the second commandment is know thy partner. And that comes in a variety of different ways. And that main point here is the communication. That's the big one. And that's before, during, and after. And several times, not just once. So that's what we just kind of talked about. And one of the exercises I gave you is the sexual menu. So that kind of fits in here, and that's something that you could take home that'll help you. See, already distracted. So what that's going to help you do after you leave or later on, you're just going to list a few things in that category in each box and share it with your partner if you want to, or if you're by yourself. It's just good to know those things about yourself, what your limits are, what your deal breakers are, what your deal makers are. It's really important to know those things at any point, because once you sit down and do that, you'll have that knowledge. You'll be able to build off of that. You'll be more comfortable with yourself, and you'll be more comfortable in an experience with another person. And nothing is sexier than confidence. So in really just being able to communicate, hey, more of this or less of that. And it feels good all around for yourself and for the other person. So this one is kind of big. You want to let go of ego. This one's important because it kind of goes hand in hand here. If you're in the middle of a sexual encounter or a tryst and your partner is saying go faster, go harder, less of this, deeper, you know, and they're kind of guiding you into what they want because that's essentially what you're supposed to do. The ego comes into play where you start to wonder, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not, and this whole little, I call it the sneaky hate spiral, goes on in your mind. And before you know it, you've lost your erection, the energy isn't even there, so, you know, it just starts to feel mechanical, and the other person picks up on it, and it just becomes negative experience, really. So letting go of your ego is important, and we're going to kind of slide back to that one a little bit later as well, because that comes back in to play with one of the other ones. There's a little trick to help you with that one, with a sneaky hate spiral. Okay, we can move on to any questions, comments? Am I going too fast?
Just hard to hear.
Oh, is it? Okay. Is it loud back there, or do you just want me?
They can feel the music, maybe. Is that interfering a little bit? Let me see if they can.
Okay.
I mean, it's like great atmosphere, but still.
Yeah, that'll help. Maybe. I'll try to talk a little louder, sorry. And I'll try to come up the front, too. Okay. Here we go. Oh, sorry, so no questions, comments, nothing? Okay. All right, so bear with me. You know, this is, like Shane said, the first time we're doing this one, so just kind of navigating and seeing how we want to do it. So if you do at the end of this have any suggestions, you know, about sound or anything, just write them down or jot them anywhere. I'll give you a sheet, and so that we can kind of keep improving it too. Okay. The third one is, I couldn't come up with a clever way of putting that, but we'll. So know thy options. And that is pretty much educate yourself. I mean, educating yourself, and knowledge is power, we all know that. And you know, when you feel like you have more information, you'll just feel more confident going into the experience. So if you find yourself interested in wanting to explore any fetish or fantasy, it's really important to educate yourself. Talk to someone about it, you know, see a professional even if you need help navigating and exploring through it, because sometimes you may say, yeah, you know, I don't want to be tied up, but I'm a little scared, you know, may trigger a trauma that I experienced when I was younger, but I did enjoy it. How can I figure this out? So that's really where I come into play to help navigate through those things. So with this one is, well, originally it was 3 E's, but I guess now it's 4 because we have that one. And that is explore, educate, I should have this memorized, but experiment, and that's with yourself and with each other. Oh yeah, it is 3, I do have educate. Okay, so that is educate, explore, and experiment. So a variety of things, and that's where the sexual menu also is going to help you. You know, don't limit yourself when you fill that out. I mean, really go above and beyond. If it's, I want chocolate ice cream in my hair, then you put it on there, because the more you have in that list, the more you'll be able to start, you know, drawing from and be able to fine tune it. So that's really giving you more options. That's where this one comes in right here. Can you guys read that? Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. So, any questions, comments? Anybody want to add to it? No? Okay. Yeah, I'm usually, you know, I finished school so young, and I know I'm young, so I know there's a lot of people out there with far more experience than I do, and I always want to hear, so I'll constantly ask. So the fourth one is to remain present. And this is where that ego essentially kind of ties back in, because we tend to think about everything else all the time. You know, even when we're having sex, that's actually one of the most focused activities. So when you're having sex or watching porn, you're the most focused in that. You know, and that's why it's a big stress reliever for a lot of people. They turn to that for a coping skill, because usually when you're doing it, you're not thinking about a variety of other things. However, if you're in a long-term relationship, or in a marriage, that's usually when that kind of becomes an issue. You begin to think about your to-do list, you think about tomorrow, you think about what happened at work today, so you kind of mentally check out. And you want to catch those moments because they spiral out of control very quickly. So, for example, I'll give you, let's see, well, actually it can go both ways. So if you're in the middle of having sex and you happen to think about, if you're a male and you happen to think about your to-do list or think about work, or you're just thinking about something else and you lose your erection, there's clearly a reason, a justifiable one, as to why you lost your erection. But you consciously don't make that connection. So then what happens is you start to obsess about the fact that you lost your erection, and again, sneaky hate spiral. It just snowballs from there. And then getting an erection each time just continues to be a problem because you're obsessing over it. Not because you are incapable of having one or keeping one, and that you ever were. Not that you have erectile dysfunction disorder anyway. That's kind of how it progresses. So you want to catch those moments. Self-awareness is key, really, in everything in life. If you talk to yourself in your head all the time, I mean, you can get through life very smoothly, having those discussions with yourself. So if you have this, you'll be able to catch yourself when that happens, and you'll be able to interrupt that process and bring yourself more present. So I have a little trick for that. And that's to pay attention to, well, 4 or 5 senses. That's silly, I don't know why I did that. Just pay attention to your senses. So basically, pay attention to, if you can bring yourself present, you will be paying attention to the smell. Maybe touch them, notice how their skin's feeling. Try to use descriptive words. So, that's smooth, it's shiny, oh, this smells like flowers, or you touch their hair. So you want to pay attention to your senses and how things are feeling, tasting, smelling, and if you do that, you'll become more present. So if you happen to be in a moment where you have lost your erection and you implement this, you'll very quickly come back and you'll be able to appreciate the experience. So a lot of people think that they struggle or may have erectile dysfunction when that really is not the case. They're just not present, or they were not present at one point and then it snowballed out of control and became a problem later on. So I'm going to write it all out because I'm visual. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I remember. So smells, touch, sight, sound, all of that. These two are pretty good. Those two, and this one too. And I'm probably missing one, but it's all right. All right, so that kind of keeps you present in the moment, or will bring you back when you lose yourself. But here's where it starts. And with the ego as well, because when that ego kicks in, that's when the questions are, am I hard enough? Am I big enough? Or you just kind of, that's when you reel yourself in, you realize, okay, wait a minute, they're just telling me what they like. That doesn't mean I'm not adequate enough. So you kind of pull yourself back in. All right. Oh, and this one, the 5th one, there's really no clever one for this. Oh, did you guys have any questions or comments about the last one? No? Okay. So this one is don't compromise yourself. Now, compromise is one thing. Sometimes your partner may be into something that you're not 100% crazy about, but you want to do it because you love them or enjoy being with them. That's one thing. That's not what I mean here. What I mean here is if you find yourself doing something that you absolutely positively do not want to do, or that it's beginning to hurt, and you continue on because you don't want to hurt their feelings or upset them, you're causing a lot of damage internally. You're causing a lot of emotional and mental damage that, again, spirals out of control and is really hard to bring back to, I guess, a normal state, essentially. I don't even like that word. But so make sure that you don't do it in that event. I mean, if you're definitely not enjoying it, if it's hurting, if it's painful, don't do it or stop it immediately. And you know what? They may not like that. They may not be happy about it. Their feelings may be hurt. They may be a little upset, but then you communicate. this one really fits into literally every one of those categories. But then you communicate, you talk about it, and you explain to them, listen, this is no reflection, this isn't personal. It's no reflection on you or what you're good at or not good at. It just didn't feel right for me, because everybody is different. Every body is different. And even every moment is different. What you may have liked one time at work, then they may say, well, you liked it then. Well, I didn't like it now. And that's all that matters, is now. Because in that moment, it's a very vulnerable state. Sex is a vulnerable act. And you're allowing someone into your body, you're entering someone, and it's a very intimate, vulnerable experience. And if you don't treat that with respect or care, you could cause a lot of damage on yourself and the other person. Not to scare you guys. But, we got to get real with it. So, yeah, so make sure you stop. Do you guys have any comments or questions? Do we have any questions on Meerkat?
Not right now.
Not? Okay. Sorry, we're live streaming, so there will be some live questions as well. Okay, so does anybody have anything for me? Any questions about any or all of it? No? None? Yes.
When you say any or all of it, are you referring to the intimacy commandments or just questions at
Oh, in general, yeah, anything. Because, I put something kind of shorter together because I knew, usually in my experience, it's a lot of interaction and talking, and you learn a lot more from other people's experiences too. So anything, throw it out, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have something? You just have.
What about people that are on medication? And, you talked about erectile dysfunction before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that can be reversed with, natural remedies or, because some people cannot take medication for that because of other health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so they're not currently on it. They're just trying to avoid it because it's in conflict with another medication. Yeah, there are a lot of different options. I know they have a bunch up there, which I'm not too familiar with, but if you're talking about natural maca root, let me write it for you, but I think it's MACCA. Maca root is a good one, but you usually kind of need a good amount of that, and that will help as well with erections. But again, in my experience with all sexual dysfunctions, with most of them, let me back up, with most of them, not all of them, it's mental. A lot of it is mental. It's, very rarely a physical thing, but that, it can happen from an illness, it can happen from an injury, but it's very frequently a mental thing.
So what you're talking about is natural?
This is natural, yeah. This is a root. So this is a maca root. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it comes in a powder and you can take it in different quantities. I'm not sure that your physician would really be too familiar with the use of that, so you probably want to find a naturopathic or type of doctor, yeah, for that. But maca has worked. I had a few clients who used it and it worked for them a little bit. But again, it's so commonly just a mental thing, especially for erectile dysfunction. So it's getting out of their head. The 5 senses trick really helps. But then, in development's another thing that plays into it. If you're struggling with maintaining an erection, and you just have to know there's more to do than penetration, especially for women. If you're a male with a female, it's fine to switch to something else. It absolutely, and they'll be fine with it too, because women are more emotionally focused. They're more mentally focused when it comes to sexual intimacy. Not that men aren't, but just a little bit more than men. So, if you happen to be in the middle of something and you lose the erection, switch it up. Try something else. Go to oral sex. Use a toy on her. Don't be shy. Don't feel that it's a representation of inadequacy on your part at all. Because it's about the pleasure. It's about the moment. It's about the experience. And, so often we measure our sexual success by orgasm. And that's not the case at all, because you can measure that by far more than that, by the intimacy, by the bonding, the connecting that you feel with that person, rather than just orgasm.
But isn't the orgasm the result of all that intimacy? So
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. It's a representation of it, but it's not the end all be all. So you could still obtain intimacy and still have connection and a bond and a great experience even if you didn't achieve orgasm.
For example, and I think I'm talking about the general men. Let's say you have someone and you made her orgasm 10 times and her ex-boyfriend did it only once. Aren't you feel more superior? I think that's normal for everyone.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. There's so many variables though that can come into play, to be honest with you. If this is where it gets tough for me because I'm always like, it's subjective. Let me talk to them and then, and then I'll figure it out, but need more information. Okay, so I could see how that would initially feel like it's the case, but honestly, she'd be the one to tell you. At that point she'd say, well, that one time was far more intimate and I was far more connected with that person than that 10 times that, So it just depends. Depends on the person and how they feel.
Quality and quantity, right?
Yeah.
Quality and quantity.
Yeah. Right? Uh-huh. It's learning for me.
Yeah, I actually, personally, as you were saying, and as what he was saying, on a personal note, there was a time where it was the best sex I ever had, and I did not have an orgasm.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing experience altogether, and it was great.
What made it great for you?
It was purely emotional.
Yeah.
It was all about just the fact that we weren't trying to outdo the other person on what we were trying to do. It was more or less we were together and that's all that really mattered. It was purely just right there. We weren't really focusing on anything else. It was just kind of happening.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And neither of us had an orgasm.
Was it the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting too because usually in the first time when you have sex with someone the first time, it can be either it's really great and amazing or it's just awkward. It's very rarely like in the middle. It's like one of those two the first time. But then when you get to know each other's bodies and what works a little bit better, then that's when it gets good and you're like, oh.
Actually, I need the guy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you were one of those lucky ones in the first time. Did you have another question?
There's been a lot more talk about two things, tantric sex and also the male G-spot. You see more and more of that as opposed to years ago about the male G-spot and the stigma that goes along with it. I'm understanding that the male G-spot can be stimulated externally and doesn't necessarily be internally. Can you touch on that?
Okay, so you're probably referring to the prostate gland.
Yeah.
So the G-spot, that word makes me quiver. I'll tell you why. Well, especially for women, for men it's probably more of a direct linear line to where it is with the prostate gland. And usually it's the perianal area, so it's in between the testicles and the can I just I'm dirty. No, I'm just kidding. And the butt essentially. So the anus, it's like there. So usually if you put pressure there and massage that, you can kind of get close to it, but it's not nearly the same amazing experience. So for males, it's close to the prostate gland and massaging that. For women, the G-spot doesn't exist. It does not exist. The doctor who came up with that term and who tried to coin this as like one spot, he had to later retract, his research. A lot of it was falsified, so it was a big problem. And the reason that was a problem is because a lot of women and men, women were thinking they were broken when they didn't have the spot, and men were thinking their wives or their girlfriends were broken because they didn't have the spot or something wasn't right, And that's not the case because, as you know, women are complicated on many, many levels, but even with our bodies, and so there's not one spot, there's a zone. So they call it the erogenous zone, and I just call it, to keep it simple, but the easy zone. This is easy zone. What's that? This one? Yeah, I came up with that one. I liked it. Yeah, it's really quick. So the easy zone, which is the erogenous zone, but that's a general area on the inside of the vagina, which when you put pressure on it or massage it, that may get you to an orgasm a lot quicker. I don't know, but again, that's different for every woman. It's in a different spot, or maybe in one spot and then later it moves, you know. I know for me it like moves after each orgasm. It's a new spot. And I'm like, keep searching, you know. And that's why exploring and experimenting and doing all that is so important, and not giving up. Yeah.
I'm in a group on my Facebook page. One of my classmates, she's studying the same thing that you are.
Oh yeah, awesome.
And she created a group called Love and Relationships After Dark.
Mm.
And they talk about, pretty much everything. And I can remember one of the topics that came up, they were talking about squirting.
Mm.
And the one person said that every female can. And is that true or false?
Yeah, that is a hot topic, I'll tell you that. Physically, from what I know, and that's something I've recently wanted to dive into a little bit more actually. Every woman can, when she has the right amount of liquid in there and you put the pressure, in the right spot and right when she orgasms, because your vaginal walls and all your muscles contract and release. So, if you're watching an adult film and they're squirting, essentially you don't see the parts where they kind of put the liquid inside of them, and then that's what happens, yeah. But there are women who naturally ejaculate that tend to make a lot more, because women have cum or essentially as well. So it's just different, yeah. Any more questions? This was fun. More questions?
Is a lot of this stuff kind of like you talk about the G-spot? Is that a lot of media hype trying to get? The way I see it, is it makes men or women almost feel, like you said, inferior, because if you're a woman and you can't touch my spot, and then it goes back to the ego and the way you make yourself feel like you're subpar because you as a man or a woman can't do these things. And that's, I think, a lot of the problem with, at least in my thinking, is a lot of problem because too much pressure, too much media hype.
Absolutely.
Much, how do you get away from that? You know what I mean? Because you're saying, because it's in your head, and men think more mechanical and analytical, and women think more emotional. So when you can't bring that together, it just makes it kind of tough on the situation in both of you, because man's trying to do it one way,
pressure, yeah.
And a woman's trying to do it another way. And like you should talk about it, but it's hard to even at my age, I think, man, why can't you talk about like this after so many years? But it's just, how do you do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm following you. It's the taboo, it's the taboo around sexuality that's oppressed it and shamed it and guilted us for it for so long. And especially for older generations too, it's much, much more difficult to feel comfortable having those discussions. It just feels like you're doing something wrong, I think with the G-spot, for example, that kind of came about because it's going to sound awful, and I'm just joking, but I'm going to say it anyway. Maybe a male looking for a shortcut for the woman, because, like I said, we're complicated. So they were like, okay, there's got to be a shortcut. Let's figure it out. So it probably would be my guess how it started. How can we do this quicker? Because she takes so long. But at the end of the day, it's just removing the stigma, and it is putting your ego aside. And I think that's kind of where I came to these commandments of intimacy, because it's knowing yourself, it's educating yourself, it's knowing your partner, it's communicating, and being open to explore, and staying present. If you do all of those things, then you're pushing the ego out automatically. If you're remaining present, if you know their body and if you know your body, and you're just focusing on the pleasure of how it feels and how it smells and the pleasure, then I think you just naturally will get there. But the talking about it is the difficult part for a lot of people. And it's just pushing yourself through the door initially. It's getting past it the first time, and knowing and being okay with the fact that you may have done something, I don't even like the word wrong, but you may have done something that didn't work for them. And understanding that everybody is so different. Even like the concept of getting wet. That's another one that I try to combat in society, another little myth. It's, getting wet is not directly correlated to how turned on a woman is, because some women don't produce that much of natural lubricant, and that doesn't mean they're broken either, and it doesn't mean that they're not turned on or into the experience. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means use lube, which you should be doing anyway. Absolutely, always use lube. I'm a huge advocate for that. Call it grease your piece. I like the terms, it just keeps it fun.
Why would you say that? Use lube every time?
Because it can become very uncomfortable, usually does. The friction, the constant skin friction, it just naturally dries up. And now if it's a female that maybe doesn't naturally produce as much lubricant, or if it's even a male, sometimes there's pre-cum, little spurts of pre-cum, which also helps with lubrication naturally. But your bodies, they don't always work that way. So what happens too is you may get really wet when you were younger, and then suddenly that stops. You're going, what's happening? Did I lose my libido? No, it's aging, it's development, it's medications. A lot of medications influence it. There's a variety of things that come into that. So as long as you always have the lubricant, you can avoid any discomfort, because that brings us to the don't compromise yourself, because it starts to feel uncomfortable, it starts to chafe, it starts to hurt, and you kind of want to you want to keep going, because you may be enjoying it and they're enjoying it, and you don't want to stop and then reach for the lube. Just prevent all that. Use it from the start.
I also noticed that turning off the AC helps a lot, because the AC dries it up quicker.
Yeah, or a fan, naturally, yeah. Yeah, but it's usually the friction too. That makes sense. Should probably do a research study on that. Yeah, like everybody go home and then time it for me. Put your fans off and your AC, and then let me know. Yeah.
That's my first time ever hearing that, to just, always lube up, even if you are an extremely, lubricated person, you still suggest that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, actually, no, let me back up. Let me rewind. If you naturally lubricate a lot and it doesn't cause any discomfort, then that's fine. I've sometimes when it's too wet, it can also be problematic, because it also takes away from the sensation. You feel less of the skin, you feel less of the warmth. So there are some women, I've had some women that produce too much natural lubricant, and then their partner is losing erection, they don't really feel them that much, and they don't feel each other that much. So I'm like, stop, dry it off, and keep going, because sometimes that helps too, bring the warmth back. That warmth is huge. Feeling that warmth in the skin is a really big component of that.
Is there a certain brand that you recommend if that were the case, like taking medication, or
Ooh.
is there any particular brand that because there's so many different things that's out there that can cause yeast infections and
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wrote this blog about what natural lubricants you can use, from the household. Coconut oil is great. Coconut oil, oh yeah, not only does it heal and help your skin, it also feels really good. Coconut oil.
it doesn't break down condoms or anything like that?
It can, yes. But yeah, it can. It does tend to do that. Not too much, but it's one of the better ones in a natural sense. But product-wise, they're all great here. So chat with them. But the biggest distinction you want to look for is whether or not you are allergic to, it just escaped me. What's the word? Condoms. Latex. Yeah. What your allergies are too as well. But the wet one is my favorite, because they have one called Silk, and I believe that's a water-based lubricant. I like that one personally. But explore. Just know thyself. Know your allergies. Know what may irritate you, and that comes with trial and error too.
What about olive oil?
Olive oil?
Extra virgin.
No, you can extra, no pun intended. No, you can use olive oil, but again, also with coconut, it can break down the condom a little bit. Yeah. But if you're married and you're doing it without that, you're fine. Yeah, I love coconut oil.
You're talking about regular coconut oil, like in the oil section,
I
the Mazola and the corn oil.
Yeah, I'd probably go to the organic one. I have this big tub. It's like from Costco. I love that one. It's like organic.
Because I thought it was sitting on the same shelf like the Mazola and all.
Yeah, they may have them there.
No, maybe.
Yeah.
Canola oil. No, I was thinking canola oil.
Canola oil.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. What did I? Pam. Spray. It's like, don't mind the sound. Ev, what's that one? So in this blog I wrote, I read somewhere someone used something, and I was like, what? Oh, they used what was it?
For illusion.
Yeah, what did they use? I think it was shampoo. I swear to God. So, yeah, I think it was shampoo, because the first thought in my head was, who is your mom? Who is your dad? And who is your teacher? Nobody's talking to them, and that's a huge issue. And this is why I went into this field. I think so many of our emotional and mental issues and struggles and internal wars comes from the oppression of sex. Sex is such a natural thing. We are wired to be sexual beings. That is a part of us. Same way we eat and sleep, we have to have sex. If you don't orgasm or ejaculate, your body does it for you in your sleep because it needs to. So it's such a natural thing.
The education that these kids are all getting, porn.
Don't get me going.
And it's all a man's point of view.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a really tough field to battle. I'm starting to get a little bit more involved with a lot of the adult film industries and with the stars, and that's when I started the Grease Your Peace movement, because that myth about if she's not wet, she's not turned on enough. So I started encouraging a lot of the adult film stars, show yourself when you're using the lubricant, so people can see that that's not all you. It's important. Same with the erections and the size of it. The guys, they take a time out and they take a breather.
It takes 2 days to film, but it's
Exactly. Yeah, that is a huge problem. And because you have to talk to your kids, talk to your friends, talk to people, even talk to your parents. I took my mom to her first sex toy store, helped her buy, her first toy, and walked her through the process. And this was before I even went into this field. I think that's kind of what set it off for me. I was like, yeah. But that's kind of what sparked it, because at the time it was mostly in just couples, and I was like, everybody needs it, So you have to talk to people because they need that education. And that pornography, it's great. I think it's a great tool for couples to use sometimes. It has its ups, but it has its downs, and its downs are pretty problematic, especially in that sense. Yeah.
For me, I'm just curious. I actually hope to become a sexologist.
Oh, awesome.
That's why I came to this.
Yeah.
That's my question. How do you recommend going to this field? Because even when I go to my college and they're like, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, yeah. And then they're like, because there's this agency I want to open up to help teach young adults sexual education, like Planned Parenthood, very open towards young adults. Because I remember when I was younger, I felt intimidated by Planned Parenthood. And a lot of my friends were, and we had all those questionable feelings, unsure about arousal and all that. And I want to open up something like Planned Parenthood, but directed towards young adults. It seems more opening and safe and judge-free.
And there's no one to talk to really either.
It's education system's horrible.
It is. It's getting a little bit better. I started a movement essentially called the Sexual Exploration and Freedom Project, and that's kind of what I want to do as well. Open up a Sexual Exploration and Freedom Center where people can come and take workshops on different things in sexuality. So I think that's great. We need more people like that. But to start with it, it's funny because when I was in my master's, a professor did the same thing, and it's so taboo. It's just, when I told him what I wanted to do, he just looked at me, he was like, you really think that's a good idea for you? And I was like, what does that mean? I'm a young female, I can't,
Yeah, I get that a lot.
it's so taboo. So
You're like, maybe social services or something. I'm like, no,
no.
that's not what I want.
yeah, we need to start there. It's just we shame our children when they're young, and it really does. It causes issues. Your kids when they're younger, starting even at 8. Actually, there's some research studies of fetuses that masturbate. These things have happened because it's a part of what we are. So, when your kids are younger, they're going to start exploring and experimenting, and you have to talk to them. You shame and guilt, you are causing so much damage. You're giving me a job, but it's causing issues, So to get into it, you definitely want to start with psych in a bachelor's. Are you in bachelor's now?
Yeah, we're
Yeah, and then once you go in your master's, you can start getting more specific with it. So.
yeah, I gave you my email. I was wondering if I could email you.
Yeah. I'll write you down my email as well, so you can email me directly, and yeah, I'll help you out. And we have like I said, I have a center and a private practice out in in downtown Tampa too. So, you know, anybody can come visit, or if you want to email me, I'd be happy to answer any questions and keep things going for sure.
We're at 45.
We're at 45 minutes. Anybody have more questions? Yeah.
I know I brought up tantric sex.
Ah, yes.
What are your views on that?
So the yoga world really hates us sexologists because we took their tantric methods and turned it, you know, sexually. So it's a big battle with them because we'll say tantric sex and they're like, no, it's tantric yoga, not just sex. I'm like, okay, well, it's all, you know, that's a part of the pie. But I love the concept because it encourages intimacy on a variety of levels like I just talked about. Many people use sex as a coping skill, and a little bit more so males than females. It's one of the first things that you turn to when you're under stress or when you're feeling pressured or when you feel disconnected from your partner. You think that you're going to get the closer to them the quickest way by just having sex with them. And then you put pressure on them to do that. And then you have sex and it becomes this guilt and pull dynamic in between them where they constantly have to say no and they don't even know why they don't want it, but they don't want it because of the pressure. I'm going on a tangent. Let me reel myself back in. So to answer your question is that method helps with intimacy and really connecting and bonding. So a lot of it really is looking in each other's eyes. So for example, a sensate focus is an exercise that I think it was Kinsley, one of those came up with, and I think it's spun from tantric sex. So what you would do is you would sit in front of each other and for about 10 minutes you would just stare in each other's eyes. And if you do that, it's really difficult. You think, oh, that's easy, I can do it. I'm telling you, I have couples who come back and they're going, we made it to 3 minutes. I'm like, come back when you make it to 10. It's really difficult. You want to, because it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable. The second you start doing, you want to laugh, you want to joke, you want to look at something else, and you're like, oh, weird. You blinked, you know, you start to make fun of it. But it's hard. You sit in front of each other and just look at each other for 10 minutes. And that's where it starts. So, so tantric.
Those are my parents.
Oh yeah, that's great. So the tantric sex too, and it goes deeper in different levels of intimacy. It teaches you how to control. The biggest, the core of that entire that method is controlling your breathing. And through doing that, you're able to prolong your orgasms and they're able to be more intense. And it works. It really does, yeah. And that's why yoga is so powerful, and that's probably, you know, that's why it stemmed from that. But breathing is huge. You know, when you orgasm, the first thing we do is hold our breath. Try breathing. It feels better, you know? So, but slowly. If you kind of inhale, hold it, and then just release it slowly, but it takes focus. And so it's self-awareness, you know, throughout the process. So it's difficult. It really is not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's just starting to come up into the scene a lot more now. Yeah.
Like I said, for hours. I mean, like literally hours and hours and hours. I'm thinking like.
Yeah, some people have managed that, and you know, let me talk to them first because I think that all the time. Like, I'm a little bit skeptical, but you know, nothing to me is impossible. So there is an orgasmic disorder for women who can have, I think males, well, a very low percentage though too, but who can repeatedly orgasm constantly. I mean, and uncontrollably, just back to back. And it's very problematic. I mean, we're all going like, yes, give me that. But
There's that woman who every time she sneezes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Imagine getting a cold.
I would not be sitting here right now. Yeah, it's just I've been sneezing all day. But yeah, so there are a few, and I mean, for somebody's blessing is someone else's curse. And then there are very few people who can't orgasm at all. But again, a lot of it's mental. Yeah. And you know, it's important again to educate yourself on the variety of things. If you feel like there's something you may be struggling with, talk to, you know, email me, find someone to talk to about it, because you may think it's a problem. It's not a problem. There's so many people who come to see me and they're going, oh, this is going on. And then I'm going, that's normal. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's normal. That's okay. You're not broken, you know? But if you go several years believing something's wrong, well, you break yourself that way. And then it's a whole lot more work to come back from it. Yeah. Any more questions, comments? Fun stories. Anybody have fun stories? I like story time. Okay, so I explained this one a little bit. For the worksheet I sent home with you, the sexual menu, I forgot to put in there and intimacy. So by that I mean emotional, mental. So just include that when you fill it out. And if you're doing it with someone, fill it out and then talk. And maybe this will help with the talking about it, just to jumpstart the conversation. If you fill these out and then just sit down and talk with each other. I tell people all the time, I say if we do what we do at work when a problem comes up at home, we would have very successful relationships and marriages. Because at work, when something goes wrong, you're like, let's schedule a meeting, let's sit down, you've got your notes, you've got your paper, let's problem solve, and you solve the issue, and you're like, okay, you do that, I do this, let's go. If we do that at home with our partner, if we sit down when we have a problem or a fight or an argument or something comes up and just talk about it productively, we will remove so many of the struggles and obstacles we face in our relationships. So talk about it, and this is just a catalyst to it. If you fill this out and you just sit down, this may jumpstart it for you, and this may help you start to talk a little bit about those things that you may not, and if there happens, it may provoke a memory of an experience. Hey, that one time you did that, I just realized it, but let's not do that again. So this is what this tool is, to kind of help you get to know yourself a little bit as well, and then discuss it with your partner. But I think it's beneficial for everyone to do it, even if you don't have a partner. Know thyself. So that's what this is. The other one, this one is an article I wrote a little while ago on intimacy, passion, and sex, and I think I threw love in there. It's a very brief little article, but basically, oh, did you get one? Basically, I think the, and I thought of that earlier when you were talking about the amazing sex you had. I think the ultimate experience of, sorry, my throat's getting dry. The ultimate experience of intimacy is when you're able to combine a variety of factors. When you manage to incorporate the passion, the love, and the sex, and the intimacy, the emotional bond, and the mental bond all in one experience. And that's difficult because in any given experience, it'll be a variety of different factors. So, knowing yourself and knowing your partner is also knowing which moment calls for what. So, and what type of experience when it comes to intimacy. Sometimes it may just be, let's just cuddle and hold each other on the couch. That's intimacy. Intimacy is not watching a movie together. It's not laying next to each other and being on your phone. That's not intimacy. It's okay, to check out every once in a while, but intimacy and really creating experiences where you are spending time with each other, focusing on each other, staring into each other's eyes, or talking, that's what facilitates intimacy. So, if and in any given moment, that's different. So one moment you may just need the sexual intimacy, and another moment you may just need to have the conversation, or you may need to laugh, and one moment you may need both of them.
Yeah.
So,
Cuddling also.
yeah, and cuddling, yeah. So when you know yourself and when you know your partner and you're able to read them, but then again, don't feel bad if you don't know what your partner wants. That's their job to know themselves. It's your job to know yourself, and it's both your jobs to communicate that to each other. And to be able to say, tonight I just want to lay here, just hold me. And, that's how you go through different moments. But sometimes you're lucky and you could throw all of this into one mix and it would be one awesome evening or morning or day or, whatever floats your boat. So that's pretty much kind of what I did with this article. I just described a little bit of a different aspects of each. And we'll go more into it too with these classes. So this is our first one in the future. I think where'd Shane go? I think we're trying to do them monthly. So as we move forward, we'll do a variety ones. We'll probably touch on fantasies. We'll touch on some fetishes. So if there's any particular topic that you really want to learn more about or get more into, just go to, I don't think Todd Couples has a form, but you can go to dryvonka.com, and I actually have a form where you can submit a question or a comment, and you can put it in there for me, and I can make sure that I provide a workshop on that for you. Yeah, there's just so much to touch on with it. I'll be working the rest of my life. So that's a lot of the structural information that I have for you guys. So Any more questions or comments? Yeah.
Do you have any clients that, I don't know the name of it, but it's like this chair, it looks like a water wave, so to speak. And it seems like it would be pretty interesting, especially when, like, for example, my husband is plus size.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like it would be something really nice to explore. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have any clients that have that, but I know, let's see, is Shane around? Or one of you go, hey Shane, do you guys have, she's talking about, what is it? It's like a
chair, it's shaped like a water wave, so to speak.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
It's made by Liberator. It's called an Essie. ESSE.
Oh, that one. Okay.
We'll
There's
order
a
it for you. We don't keep it in stock because it's
I was
pretty
wondering,
pricey, but
like,
we can order
I don't
anything
know
like
where you
that.
can buy one or whatever, but it just seems like it would be something nice,
Mhm.
when you are plus size, you have
Yeah.
issues.
The company Liberator makes all sorts of different cushions, different shapes
Mhm.
for different positions, stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a lot. Yeah, and I have a lot. I think that's one of our upcoming blogs too, trying to put something together on, writing for people, because I do a radio show, or did one for a while, a little bit, and just kind of slowed down. But that was a very common question, what to do when you're, shorter, taller, in different sizes and different positions. So I'll have a blog out soon. Just keep an eye out, and I'll do one on that. But know thyself, know thy partner. Really get familiar with how it is, what you like the most in terms of positions. But that probably, how does it look? Because I don't know if I've seen that one. I know
It
there's.
looks like an S shape, like the back here.
He's gonna draw it. This ought to be good.
It's pretty neat, like a neat person. I would have to tell my kids it's like a special couch.
Yeah. They're like a special couch. So.
It's a cushion.
But this is the bottom, so here.
Yeah. That's the bottom. It lays flat, so people contour to
Ah, yes. Okay, that probably will help, because I actually usually tell people, so I'd imagine like this, right? Love my stickman. That's good, right?
Is that?
That's, what? That's the head. No, this is the arm. These are the legs, yeah.
Okay.
So, I actually have an awesome product that I'm going to work on soon. I don't want to give my idea away, but I'll tell you guys one day. But it'll help with this type of thing. So, yeah, those are the legs. I usually tell people to prop pillows. Especially for women, too, because for women, another big myth is that, all women should orgasm through penetration. It's not the case. Most women don't orgasm through penetration. It's stimulation of the clitoris area. So even if you are orgasming through penetration, it's because of the friction from the bodies on the clitoris. And also it's the nerves from the clitoris sometimes extend into the internal of the vaginal wall. So when you orgasm through penetration, it's still from that stimulation. I'm like pointing at nothing, like I drew something. So I just realized that. I'm like, it's in my head, but I didn't draw it for you guys. So it's a lot of times just more from that friction. So the angle for women is important, and that's why a lot of women tend to have their first ever orgasm when they're on top, or most frequently when they're on top, because it's that friction again that's helping. So with this, is one of the things I like too. I tell women all the time, put a bunch of pillows under your lower back, and that'll help lift your pelvis as well. So here, I guess the other person would be on their knees or standing up, Don't laugh at my stickman. So the other one I like too, and this is a great one too, is and it helps. This pillow really, I know there's a different one, and that's what I was thinking when you mentioned it. I forgot what it's called, but yeah, that's it. I love the wedge too. So when you're laying down, face down, essentially, it also helps. That, I don't know what that is. It's like talking and drawing at the same time.
Trip over because you left in the living room.
Right. Yeah, that's good. But you guys get the picture, I hope. So, yeah, so that's the, is that the, which one's that? Yeah, see, I need that because I'm tired of the pillows. They're not firm enough. Yeah. I know, I self-disclose. Not a lot of professionals do that, but I do. I think it's important.
Waterbed doesn't work either.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't imagine that would. Waterbeds are difficult.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just got rid of those.
Oh, you did?
We've had one since we've been married, 27 years. We've always had a waterbed.
Oh, yes. Really?
Yeah.
I would imagine that being sorry. You have got to have some core strength to deal with all that. Yoga. Yoga and waterbeds. Yeah, no, that's more power to you guys. I may interview you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I may interview you and learn some more about that. I haven't actually thought of that one much. So waterbed, absolutely. Swings are great, and I think that's why they have the sex swing and a variety of those. So that one's good though. I'll look into that one more. A lot of the newer products I'm not too familiar with. My head's been in books lately so much with some research and things that I've been doing. So I need to get caught up in some of these things. But that's why I love these and I love the interaction because I think a lot of people have so much experience and I want to learn from that too. There's always more to learn. So any more questions? Comments? Concerns? Okay. So we're at 1 hour. You're free to go if you like, but I'll be here a little bit longer. So if you want to come up and chat, I'll be here. Thank you. I should have gone into comedy too.